I have come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal, and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. Audre Lorde. We do not have to romanticize our past in order to be aware of how it seeds our present. We do not have to suffer the waste of an amnesia that robs us of the lessons of the past rather than permit us to read them with pride as well as deep understanding. Audre Lorde. From South Park Village, Concrete, came this Yellow Rose of Texas. Good evening, Fifth Ward. I am Alexus. If you can hear me, say woohoo. Listen, I am so grateful that y'all are here tonight. And hello, live streaming. We're live streaming it as well. Okay, I was looking for my camera there. Hey, fam out there, listen. I love this Audre Lorde quote, and I actually venerate her as a poet and a prophet. There is something very important that she said that helps me to show up in spaces like as I am. One of the things that she said that is very relevant for me tonight, and I think in most instances when I'm producing live events. She talked about how often when you basically show up as yourself, you make room for people to judge, to poke, to gauge, to do all of those things. And so I want to go ahead and admit that tonight, my preference would have been to been in a pair of short shorts and some platform shoes and a jacket like that. When I was producing out in Los Angeles and on the East Coast, that was what I showed up in, because I'm like, listen, I do all that leg work, I want to show off my legs. I'm just being really, really clear. But my mother, for one of my last events on the East Coast, she actually, she was watching me get dressed, and she said, now why are those shorts so short? And I was like, because they was too long when I bought them, so I cut them. And sis did not like that, but she couldn't do anything because, you know, I'm grown, and I was out, you know, in on the East Coast doing my thing. But now I'm in Texas where she is. And so when I gave her the HMAC T-shirt, she was one of the greeters today that let everyone in. And so when I gave her the T-shirt, and I was like, okay, now this is what you're wearing. She said, okay, now what you wearing? And I said, a blue dress. And she said, oh, okay. So I realized that that's a big thing for her, because her, you know, the women she on the finance ministry with, and her First Lady Johnson and Sister Teresa, hey, how y'all doing? I know they tuning in. I got on the blue dress. Anyway, I am so grateful to have y'all out here tonight. Thank you so much for coming out to restoring the story of Fifth Ward. And incidentally, if you're looking at this sandal, the thing broke on top of that. So I'm just saying, I'm saying all of this just in case there's somebody that's like paying that close attention to what I got on. That's a real thing for me. But thank y'all so much for coming out. My mother was the one who did show up, and she has the HMAC T-shirt, and she was probably a lot of fun greeting folks, you know, before the doors of the theater opened. But she was wearing the HMAC swag, and that is because those 5 letters, HMAAC, they are the sponsor for this night's event. This is an exhibition in the community sponsored by the Houston Museum of African American Culture. And I would like to bring out the COO, Chief Operating Officer, Miss Davinia Reed. Is Davinia, you back there? Where is she? You know what? Where is Davinia? That was so funny. She was like, I'm not going to be up there saying all the stuff that Dr. Guest does. I was like, you don't have to. I need you to show up as Davinia Reed. There she is. Please give her a round of applause.
Good
come on up here. Come on up here.
Everyone.
Come. Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. When I first pitched this idea to Dr. Guest, I was just returning to Houston, and I said, you know, you are the CEO of the African American Culture, of the Houston Museum of African American Culture. And so I know that it's a museum where we have exhibitions inside of the museum, but it's also a museum where we do exhibitions in the community. And so I pitched this, and even though they were already done with their programming, he actually called Vicky Meek, who was the public artist who had introduced us, and he's like, doggone it, I gotta go get Lexus some money to do this event. So I am so grateful. If you have some words for us.
All I would like to say is HMAC is definitely a museum that's in the community. If you have not had the opportunity to come see us, feel free to stop by at 4807 Caroline Street. As far as restoring the Fifth Ward, we were delighted to have Alexus join us as the guest curator because we had had many talks about storytelling and how our stories are told and that they're told the proper way. So when she came along with her project, it was perfect timing. So when Dr. Guest said, I'm going to go out and find some money, and I was like, okay. Go ahead. But we're excited. I'm excited to see the storytellers. I'm excited about this project.
Thank you.
I know it'll be amazing because Sunnyside was amazing.
Yes. We started with Sunnyside.
Yeah,
that was Dr.
started with
Guest.
Sunnyside.
Yes.
Even though, my hood is Missouri City. I guess you wouldn't consider that a hood, but I mean, that's where I grew up. But we started in Sunnyside, and now we're here in the Fifth Ward.
Yes, and not only did they sponsor the storytelling event, there was also a special storytelling workshop that was made available to Fifth Ward residents and people who secured a ticket for tonight's event. And Florence Carter's, Miss Carter, are you here? Yes, there she is. Okay, Miss Carter, we have a gift for you. It is right there. So here's what Mrs. Carter did. She arrived at the workshop. She was the first person to arrive at the workshop, and she arrived about 30 minutes early. Fortunately, I was already set up and I was ready. And we just had the most delightful conversation. It was just her growing up in Fifth Ward and her being very excited about the stories that were here tonight. And so I said, okay, Ms. Carter, just so you know, you're taking this workshop, so at some point you're going to be on the mic too. So I'm going to need you to pay attention to everything you don't like happening here. Mrs. Carter, you'll be able to say, okay, I'm going to change that when I get to the mic, because you are certainly en route. Please give her a round of applause. And thank you, Davida. She's going to take that shirt. She's going to bring the shirt back to you. Okay, restoring the story of Fifth Ward. Restoring is it's a social science methodology. And it basically means that the way that they have been telling a particular story, not only are they not telling the whole story, sometimes they're not even telling a chapter. It's like they're telling a scene, and they're making it the full story. And that is problematic. And so restoring as a social science, as a methodology, is really about us having to tell the story in the proper way. And I think the best person that I've ever heard frame the restoring methodology, like without the whole fancy language, was my mama's baby sister, my crazy auntie. Now, anybody who would come to her and try to tell her anything, and she's like, okay, she would stop them. She's like, okay, look here. What you say to me ain't gonna stay with me. So tell it right so I can carry it right. Not carry it right. Tonight, all of the storytellers are prepped to tell the story right, and the intention is that you hear it and that you carry it right. That is how we are, that's how we've set up this tonight's event. And so I believe that you are going to have an amazing time, and I'm personally committed to restoring stories, the right narratives, because I understand what it's like when the story is not told correctly. As a matter of fact, I personally had a 40-year misunderstanding. It happened spring of 1983. I was in the 8th grade, and I was going to my 8th grade dance, and there's a picture of me on the screen from that night. I was excited to be attending the 8th grade dance, excited to be graduating. The problem was my dress. It was a floor-length satin gown with a lace crop top. And you see I have my little date there, my little boyfriend, Nathan. And the problem with that dress was that the year before, spring 1982, when Nathan was a 8th grader for the first time, I was his date. And so that was that was the style in 1982. But here we are in 1983, and the style is actually T-length ruffle dresses. That's what the girls were wearing. Like, the Pally World catalog, the Foley's Apartment Store catalog, they said that spring 83 supposed to be in T-length ruffle dresses. And there I was in this, floor-length satin gown with this crop top. the lace crop top, and I just felt dated. And so I went to my mama and I was like, Mama, this ain't the style. And sis was real unpressed. She was like, that's your dress. And I was like, but Mama, the style is like T-length dresses with ruffles, the ruffled like T-length dress. And so it, we went back and forth. I went back and forth. She was real quiet. And when I finally just put my foot down, I was like, listen, I like this. I need to wear the latest style. Like, this is my 8th grade dance. And she said, okay, well, don't go. And I was like, well, listen, I'm not repeating the 8th grade like Nathan. Like, Nathan had 2 runs at it. I'm only doing this one time. So I need to just go ahead and just, suck it up. And the good thing is that no one that was at the dance the year before saw me in the dress. And so it wasn't about people saying, oh, she got the same dress on. They weren't there. It was literally, the style was a T-length ruffle dress, and I was not going to be in style. But my mother said, if you want to go, you got a dress. If you don't want to go, you can stay home. I chose to go. Nathan and I walk into the dance. And he is, we're both, excited to be there. I'm self-conscious, but when I'm self-conscious, I don't shrink. I stand tall, shoulders back. I walk in. I own the space. So that's what I did. And when we walked in, everyone got quiet. Everyone was watching us. We went to the photography section. We took our picture. And then we went to the grazing table and we got, frog legs. Like, the delicacy. Frog legs taste like chicken, just FYI. I had found that out the year earlier. But that was like a really fancy kind of thing. And so our at the space where we held the event, they served frog legs. And so we, got some frog legs and got some drinks. And we were dancing on the dance floor and, pretty much having a good time. 40 years later, I was having drinks with a friend, December 2023, as a matter of fact. I had come home for Christmas. I was having drinks with my friend Renee, who was my friend from middle school. And we got to reminiscing. And then we got on the 8th grade dance. And Renee said, Alexus, you walked in that room and you looked like a goddess. And I was like, y'all was staring at me. She was like, yeah, because we all had on them T-length ruffle dresses, and you show up and you just own the room. And I was like, but didn't nobody talk to me? I was like, who talks to goddesses? Like, we don't know what to say to y'all. And I said to her, do you know that for 40 years, I have carried this idea that somehow I was a pariah, or I was, like that you didn't really like me, that I was, my mother's inability to buy me the T-length ruffle dress was a thing when everybody else had it. Like, why didn't she have it? Like, I carry that. I was like, so I wonder, what other things have we heard? What other misunderstandings are we carrying? Tonight, we're going to correct some of those misunderstandings, particularly as it pertains to 5th Ward. And they're going to tell it right. And what is your responsibility? Cared right. Okay, here we go.